Hello, welcome to the channel Setting the Stage. Today's video is called The Illuminati History. If you like this sort of content, please subscribe. This is the series intro since this is the first video in the series, and this series is a general overview and introduction. It's referenced, not exhaustive but supportive. The series builds on and reinforces itself and is meant to be watched as a series. This video's topics page. First, we're going to be taking a look at the Illuminati general history, then the Illuminati connection to Freemasonry, the Illuminati connections to the Rothschilds, the Illuminati instigating the French Revolution, the Illuminati and the Rothschilds profiting from the French Revolution, the Illuminati and Rothschilds' continued influence. The Illuminati general history. The Illuminati, which means enlightened ones or keepers of the light, was started on May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. It was an Enlightenment-era secret society and was influenced by Freemasonry and actively recruited from it, building a secret society within a secret society. It had the goals of ending Christianity and starting a one-world government. The Bavarian government outlawed them, published their papers, and warned other governments. It was discovered that they had went underground when one of its couriers, named Lanz, was struck by lightning in the town of Ratisbon, and some of their documents were found detailing their instigation and involvement in the French Revolution. The Illuminati owl, aka the Owl of Minerva, is the symbol of the Illuminati. Even though the historical Bavarian Illuminati has ceased to publicly exist, they left behind the legacy of a satanic globalist agenda. The Illuminati Freemasonic connection. Proofs of a conspiracy. In 1797, a Freemason and professor from the University of Edinburgh named John Robison published a book called Proofs of a Conspiracy. In it, he recalls his personal account of how Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Illuminati, recruited from Masonic lodges and what his goals were. It also details Illuminati involvement in the French Revolution. Quotes from Proofs of a Conspiracy that show a connection between Freemasonry and the Illuminati. It says, mixing with Freemasonry, an association has been formed for the express purpose of rooting out all the religious establishments and overturning all the existing governments of Europe. The association of which I have been speaking is the Order of Illuminati, founded in 1775 by Dr. Adam Weishaupt. It took its first rise among the Freemasons. The Order of Illuminati appears as an accessory to Freemasonry. It is in the lodges of Freemasons that the Minervals are found, and there they are prepared for illumination. And it was discovered then that this and several associated lodges were the nursery or preparation school for another order of Masons who called themselves the Illuminated, and that the express aim of this order was to abolish Christianity and overturn all civil government. The House of Hesse hosted the Congress of Wilhelmsbad, where the Illuminati merged with Freemasonry. And we see this is William of the House of Hesse, and this is one of his castles on the property where the Congress of Wilhelmsbad took place, where the Illuminati merged with Freemasonry. And it says, the Hanoi Wilhelmsbad Spa, fashionable from 1777 to 1785, was the location of the Masonic Congress in the summer of 1782. William IX made it his summer retreat. The Congress of Wilhelmsbad convened at the summer retreat of William, the most significant event of the era as far as any official coalition between secret society factions. And that's from Terry Melanson, his book, The Perfectibilists, and his article, Masonic Congress of Wilhelmsbad. And it says, Landgrave Karl von Hessen-Kassel, and indeed German Freemasonry as a whole, were recruited into the Illuminati. And Nesta Webster provides a more sinister view. It was not until the Congress of Wilhelmsbad that the alliance between Illuminism and Freemasonry was finally sealed. The Illuminati connections to the Rothschilds. Mayer Amschel Rothschild is the founder of the Rothschild family banking dynasty and the father of international finance. He had 5 sons that he positioned across Europe: Nathan Mayer to London, England; James to Paris, France; Amschel Mayer to Frankfurt, Germany; Solomon to Vienna, Austria, Karl Mayer to Naples, Italy, creating a multinational banking empire. The Rothschilds were bankers to two original members of the Illuminati. Nathan Rothschild became a Freemason of the Emulation Lodge No. 12 of the Premier Grand Lodge of England on October 24, 1802, showing the Rothschilds had more than one connection in these circles. And on the left, we see Mayer Amschel Rothschild. He started the Rothschild family banking dynasty, and he was a banker to two original members of the Illuminati, Prince von Dahlberg and Prince Karl of the House of Hesse. And it says, according to Neil Ferguson, Mayer Amschel was soon acting as Dahlberg's court banker. And Mayer Amschel Rothschild received permission to nail a gold letter sign to his shop which read, Crown Agent to the Principality of Hesse-Hanoi, essentially making him the banker to the House of Hesse. And the House of Hesse had two connections to the Illuminati. Prince Karl, who we just saw was a original member of the Bavarian Illuminati, and his brother was William, who we saw hosted the Congress of Wilhelmsbad, where the Illuminati merged with Freemasonry. And it says, escaping only Prince von Dahlberg, the House of Hesse clearly represent the strongest link between the Rothschild dynasty and the Illuminati. And there's the possibility of the Rothschilds having contributed financially to the Bavarian Illuminati. And then it says, beginning with Karl's father Frederick, the Hesse-Kassel royal family made a fortune from leasing Hesse-Kassel mercenaries to various monarchies. And the Hesse-Kassel mercenary blood money in turn became the catalyst for the beginning of the Rothschild family fortune. And 17,000 Hessians fought the rebels in the War of American Independence. Rothschild's connections to the Illuminati Review. They were banker to two original members of the Illuminati, Prince von Dahlberg and the House of Hesse. Two members of the House of Hesse were connected to the Illuminati. Karl was an original member, and William, the head of the House of Hesse, hosted the Congress of Wilhelmsbad, where the Illuminati merged with Freemasonry. And the House of Hesse had a mercenary army that is very profitable during war and revolutions. And the Illuminati instigated the French Revolution. And another quote from Proofs of a Conspiracy that show the Illuminati involvement in the French Revolution is, the most active leaders in the French Revolution were members of this association, and conducted their first movements according to its principles and by means of its instructions and assistance. Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism is a book by Abbe Augustin Barriel and details Illuminati involvement in the French Revolution. Barriel's third volume addresses the objective of the Freemasons and the order of the Illuminati. The secret aim was the overthrow of the French monarchy and the establishment of the Republic. He believed that it was his job to warn all governments and people of the goals of the Freemasons. Barriel described in detail how this system worked in the case of the Illuminati. For Barriel, the final designs of the coalition of the Freemasons and the Illuminati were achieved by the Jacobins. And the Jacobins was the most influential political club during the French Revolution of 1789 and following. And this is Illuminati Freemasonic French Revolution symbolism. And on the left, we see the French Constitution, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, written after the French Revolution with the Freemasonic all-seeing eye on the top. In the middle, we see the all-seeing eye in Freemasonic symbolism, and we see that same symbol on the back of the US dollar bill, as it's seen on the Great Seal. And we'll see connections to the Illuminati and the Federal Reserve System that prints the US dollars coming up. The Illuminati and the Rothschilds profit from the French Revolution. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, informs us that Nathan Rothschild was on such good terms with Illuminatist Prince Dahlberg that Napoleon had made the former a member of the Electoral College. Meanwhile, the Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel, Karl's brother William, had already fled to Denmark. He sent his money to Nathan in London, who in 1808 utilized it to purchase 800,000 British pounds worth of gold from the East India Company, knowing that it would be needed for Wellington's Peninsula campaign. And Wellington was in charge of the British war effort against Napoleon. For confirmation of that, we'll look at another source which says Nathan Mayer Rothschild was instrumental in almost single-handedly financing the British war effort, organizing the shipment of bullion to the Duke of Wellington's armies across Europe, as well as arranging the payment of British financial subsidies to their continental allies. So here we see the Rothschilds using their one Illuminati connection to get on Napoleon's Electoral College, then using their other Illuminati connection to fund the war effort against Napoleon. And interestingly, we always see Napoleon posing with the Freemasonic hidden hand symbolism. And it says in one instance, the family network enabled Nathan to receive in London the news of Wellington's victory at the Battle of Waterloo a full day ahead of the government's official messengers. And in what has been described as one of the most audacious moves in financial history, Nathan immediately bought up the government bond market for what at the time seemed an excessively high price, before waiting 2 years, then selling the bonds on the crest of a short bounce in the market in 1817 for a 40% profit. Given the sheer power of leverage the Rothschild family had at their disposal, this profit was an enormous sum. And that's according to The Ascent of Money, A Financial History of the World. And this helped the Rothschilds get control of the British Central Bank, the Bank of England. Rothschild's connections to the Illuminati Review. The House of Hesse, members of the original Illuminati, had a mercenary army that was profitable during wars and revolutions. The Rothschilds were their bankers. The Illuminati started the French Revolution. The French Revolution led to the Napoleonic Wars. The Illuminati and Rothschilds profit from the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. And the Rothschilds used inside information from the Napoleonic Wars to gain control of the British bond market and central bank. George Washington's Illuminati letters. A G.W. Snyder wrote to George Washington, a prominent American Freemason, asking him about the book Proofs of a Conspiracy. These letters are kept at the National Archive. In them, G.W. Snyder asked George Washington if he had heard of the book Proofs of a Conspiracy, and if Washington had any insight on the matter. G.W. Snyder's first letter to Washington. It says, "Secret, the most secret plans are in agitation. It was some time since that a book fell into my hands entitled Proofs of a Conspiracy by John Robinson, which gives a full account of a society of Freemasons that distinguishes itself by the name of Illuminati, and whose plan is to overturn all government and all religion. And a thought suggested itself to me that some of the lodges in the United States might have caught the infection and might cooperate with the Illuminati." Washington's response to G.W. Snyder: "I have heard much of the nefarious and dangerous plan and doctrines of the Illuminati, and I believe, notwithstanding, that none of the lodges in this country are contaminated with the principles ascribed to the Society of Illuminati." G.W. Snyder's response to Washington, he says, "I should be very happy in Your Excellency's good opinion that the contagion of Illuminism and Jacobinism had not yet reached this country, but when I consider," and then gives evidence to the contrary, he says, "I confess I cannot divest myself of my suspicions." Washington seems to backtrack and say, "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more fully satisfied of this fact than I am. The idea I meant to convey was that I did not believe that lodges of Freemasons in this country had, as societies, endeavored to propagate the diabolical tenets of the first, or the pernicious principles of the latter, if they are susceptible of separation. That individuals of them may have done it is too evident to be questioned." So at first he dismisses it wholehandedly, and then says the societies might not have done it, but maybe individuals did. Thomas Jefferson's Illuminati letter. He says Weishaupt seems to be an enthusiastic philanthropist. He is among those who believe in the indefinite perfectibility of man. He thinks he may in time be rendered so perfect that he will be able to govern himself in every circumstance. And Weishaupt believes that to promote this perfection of the human character was the object of Jesus Christ. And those are similar beliefs as the Gnostic Luciferians, as we'll see in the Illuminati and Satanism video. That his intention was simply to reinstate natural religion, and by diffusing the light of his morality to teach us to govern ourselves. And I will believe you will think with me that if Weishaupt had written here, where no secrecy is necessary in our endeavors to render men wise and virtuous, he would not have thought of any secret machinery for that purpose. Interestingly, according to Monticello.org, Thomas Jefferson helped draft the French Constitution, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, that had the Illuminati Freemasonic symbolism at the top. The Illuminati and Rothschild's continued dominance. Major 19th century businesses founded by the Rockefeller family include the Alliance Assurance, the Rio Tinto Mining Company, De Beers Diamond Monopoly. The family funded Cecil Rhodes and the creation of the African colony of Rhodesia, and we know how the African colonies were used to plunder Africa. Titles of nobility. In 1816, 4 of the 5 sons of Mayer Amschel Rothschild were elevated to the Austrian nobility by Emperor Francis I. The remaining son, Nathan, was elevated in 1818. In 1847, Sir Anthony de Rothschild was made a hereditary baronet of the United Kingdom, and this title is currently held by the 4th Baron Rothschild. A group of Rothschild banks have been controlled by the Rothschild Continuation Holdings. Rothschild Continuation Holdings controls a number of Rothschild banks, including N.M. Rothschild & Sons. And Rothschild entered into a cooperation agreement in the fields of mergers and acquisitions. N.M. Rothschild & Sons, an English investment bank, is in the field of mergers and acquisitions. And here we see Sir Evelyn Rothschild in the picture behind Queen Elizabeth in the top. And then below that we see Evelyn Rothschild with his finger in the chest of Prince Charles. And it says Sir Evelyn Rothschild, who even today is the financial advisor to Queen Elizabeth, he retired from leadership in 2003, passing on the mantle of patriarch to Jacob Rothschild. He ensured the secrecy of the family's fortune by establishing a complex network of shell companies, starting off in Switzerland but ending God knows where. This is some of the Rothschilds' mansions, which show their opulent lifestyle. The Balfour Declaration. In 1917, Walter Rothschild, 2nd Baron Rothschild, was the addressee of the Balfour Declaration to the Zionist Federation, which committed the British government to the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. And this helped the Rothschilds in the creation of the modern nation of Israel. The Rothschilds got influence over the Bank of England central bank after the bond market purchase following the Battle of Waterloo. The book The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin details how the Rothschilds and Rockefellers helped draft the Federal Reserve System, the central bank of the United States, at Jekyll Island, Georgia. Today they influence almost every nation's central bank. And at the bottom left we see a picture of fourth Baron Lord Jacob Rothschild with David Rockefeller. And we know the Rothschilds' connections to the Illuminati and their connections to central banking. Now we can see the Rockefellers' connections to the Rothschilds and central banking. And we know central banking's connections to globalism through the IMF and the World Bank, as well as Rockefeller's connections to globalism through the UN. And it says, Weishaupt had long been scheming the establishment of an association or order which in time should govern the world. Another quote from Proofs of a Conspiracy. And it says, conceal the very fact of our existence. If they discover us, conceal our real objective by profession of benevolence. If our real objective is perceived, pretend to disband and relinquish the whole thing, but assume another name and put forth new agents. A quote by Adam Weishaupt. Illuminati political symbolism. And we've already seen these symbols, the Freemasonic symbolism on the French Constitution in the back of the dollar. And we know the connections to the Freemasons and Illuminati. So this is Illuminati symbolism. And we also see Freemason symbolism in the streets of Washington with an upside down pentagram with the bottom point pointing at the White House. And the upside down pentagram is a Freemasonic symbol since it is the symbol of the Order of the Eastern Star, the female version for Freemasons. And also the Pentagon, where the military is run out of, is the middle part of an upside down pentagram. And there's an Illuminati owl built around the Capitol building where Congress meets. If you've liked this presentation, please look forward to other presentations coming up in this series. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.